What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Skeledirge, Venusaur, and Arctibax in the Catch Cup. This trio is pretty much 3 of the 5 Pokemon that I have that I could even use in this cup. So I'm not one to build, another Medicham or anything like that. So I know there are people who have built their first Medichams in Lickitung. More power to you. I hope they help you climb in this meta. But for me, I don't really want to invest more dust, and I'm sure a lot of people also feel the same way. So these are some accessible Pokemon from this season. The Venusaur could be a Quagsire, could be really almost anything else. I just happen to have the Venusaur, and Arctibax was a new addition to my roster that I mean, the IVs are okay, right? They look good, but the CP doesn't match up that great. It's like 20, or it's like 1487 or something. So let's take a look at the battles here in the Catch Cup and see how this team performs. Spoiler alert, it's actually not too bad. We get the first battle up against Sirfetch'd. And the thing is, like, if you're not familiar, the Catch Cup format, essentially anything that has been caught this season is eligible. So as long as it's not a mythical, right? If you caught your, you're like me and you finished your Mew research, then you can't use it because it's not eligible. My opponent makes a nice catch here to catch the Disarming Voice on their Golbat, and I pop in my Arctibax because it's a nice type, and I'm like, yeah, this is probably a good matchup, right? Opponent farming up here, and I am just, I got to make sure that I keep shield advantage or something, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to give the Arctibax an opportunity to get farmed down by this Sirfetch'd. So I decided to shield, and it was actually a Shadow Ball. I felt like they might be throwing it because they built up to it. So at this point, I don't know how much, and this is my first time playing games with the Arctibax, so I don't know what it can tank and what it can't. I just know the Dragon types are overall fairly squishy, if I'm being honest, but it is ripping through the Sirfetch'd and forces them to throw energy. This is a very good farm down range for my Skeledirge. The opponent throwing another Leaf Blade, and in the beginning I no-shielded because I'm like, well, if they've got it, then that's it. If they've got Night Slash, then sucks. But I was hoping Venusaur would sweep in the back with a shield, and they have Jellicent in the back, and it's very, very easy to me. This person, by the way, all nukes. I have much respect for this person, not baiting a single time unless they're running Brave Bird on the Sirfetch'd, but they didn't bait a single time, so good game to that trainer. Getting into the next battle, we got our Skeledirge against a Gligar. This is an awkward matchup. Skeledirge is pretty neutral, and Arctibax has an okay matchup, especially if you can land that Avalanche, but I have to stay in here. Venusaur ended up actually feeling a little bit more awkward than not. Like, it was great when I was able to line it up on the water types that were in this format, but when I saw things like Gligar and, just, dragon types, right? There are things that really core break some teams, and that's the unfortunate byproduct of me only having 5 Pokemon. I think I have, the other 2 Pokemon I have are my Clodsire, and I have a Charjabug from Community Day. I actually was a fool and forgot to evolve any of the Whoopers that I caught on the Community Day. So I don't have a Quagsire with Aqua Tail, or even without. I could have one without, I guess, but I would have to go evolve it. I don't know. I don't feel like investing the resources at this point, I gotta be honest. But we get even shields, and the opponent then gets to land a Powder Snow Ninetales on my Arctibax. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but the back line that I've got is miserable into this thing. The opponent lets it go, and I know that this is just a Weather Ball. I should be able to live it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just do as much damage to the Ninetales as possible. I would have built up to the Avalanche myself if they hadn't thrown, but because they threw, now what all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to try and get Venusaur to farm down and shield. And my opponent, realizing they're not going to get to the move there, swaps into Jellicent, and I'm going up to 2 charge moves, and if the opponent shields this, I immediately throw the other Frenzy Plant, and if the opponent no shields it, then I just farm down, because they do need 2 moves to KO, and that's a good game, well played. I don't know how I won that one. I'm going to be honest, I just got very lucky the opponent didn't get to a second charge move. Charjabug on the lead, another common thing you might see. And they immediately swap into a Clodsire, and I realized that, and I realized much more so after these first couple of sets, that Clodsire is an absolute pain for this team, because even though I'm resisting the poison damage from their Sludge Bomb and their Poison Sting, Skeledirge cannot tank an Earthquake, no matter how much I want it to. This trainer happens to be also running Stone Edge. My Arctibax does not like Stone Edge. Oh, no, it does not. So now I have to shield up a Sludge Bomb, but I should be able to try and go for nearly a farm down here. But I'm going to throw the Dragon Claw before the opponent gets to the Sludge Bomb, which would be at 6 Poison Stings here. Opponent lets it go, keeps shield advantage, fine by me. I do at least get to get rid of this Clodsire, which is fine. And they come back in with a Charge Bug looking for a farm down. So I'm going to throw a Dragon Claw. I'm going to hope that I can get to another one before they can farm me down here. And the only reason that my Skeledirge is not going to have a good time here is if they have Crunch. I'm not able to get to another Dragon Claw, but I come back in with Skeledirge. Opponent has a Quagsire in the back, and this is when the Shadow Venusaur strikes and has its way. Now, the opponent throws on 5, so I know this is just a Mud Bomb. If they'd built up to 7 or 8, then I would have, been concerned that it could be Stone Edge. Venusaur does live the Stone Edge pretty nicely here. But an Earthquake, yeah, Shadow Venusaur doesn't take Earthquakes from anything in this format. Like, it gets one shot pretty much by even Clodsire, with throwing a Earthquake even with those fast moves. But going for the Sludge Bomb here, getting the shield off the opponent. Then I can go for a Frenzy Plant if I need to, but the opponent throws, and at this point, pretty much committing to just try and farm down with Skeledirge. Would have been better for me to try and throw on alignment there, honestly, just to try and get the shield off the opponent so I could just throw a Disarming Voice in hindsight, but is what it is. Opponent lives on 1 HP. I think they're at a charge move here, and because they're on 1 HP, if you don't know, and I'm pausing this to explain this because this is an important mechanic of the game, if you don't know, if you shield something, you still take 1 damage on your Pokemon. So if you shield something at 1 HP, it still faints. So good game to that opponent. I did misplay a bit, but that was a good game. I should have just thrown that Frenzy Plant before they had been able to throw the X-Scissor there. All right, so really, really awkward lead here with Dragonite. Yeah, I don't know, man. I can never seem to make the Dragonite leads work with this team, so it's just one of those things where you just have to try and play around it and hope that your backline does well into their backline. That's really all you can end up doing. Like, you're hoping that, you get your Shadow Venusaur on the Quagsires kind of thing. Like, that's really the only realistic way that you can make it out of here, or if the opponent overfarms by a bit here, as they should be getting to their second Dragon Claw right around the same time you get to that second Disarming Voice. So Arctibax is going to come in. The opponent now going to throw a Superpower here, and I don't know why they threw Superpower. I was thinking they had enough energy for 2 Dragon Claws, but they throw the Superpower. And then they come in with a Medicham. I mean, either way, they get my last shield, which, I mean, sucks. But the other thing also is that I am shieldless, and they have a Medicham with some energy. And so I come with my Venusaur. The correct play for me here would have been to immediately pivot into Venusaur. But I didn't think about it at the time. And thankfully, they only have Ice Punch, so they're probably not running Psychic, which is fine with me. So I'm going to overfarm a bit. My opponent then comes in with a Lantern, sacrificing it to the greater god, Arceus himself. We undercharge to try and get the farm here. And if they're 1 away, if they have the Ice Punch, I lose, but they were 1 away from the Ice Punch. So because of that undercharge, we're able to take the game here and KO the Medicham. Good game. Yeah, that Frenzy Plant just about one-shots a whole Lantern. So, as much as I like to dig on Lantern, we do have to undercharge it in order to get that farm, or we lose. I think that there's a chance that even if they throw the Ice Punch, though, Arctibax could possibly have just farmed it down. So, Clodsire lead, they need 8 to get to the first Earthquake, so we can safely throw a Shadow Ball here because it's 1 turn before they get to their 8th. Mud Shot or Poison Sting. And then I swap in my Arctibax afterwards because my Skeledirge gets to stay healthy and not tank a move. But opponent comes in with an Oranguru, and this is some monkey spice right here. Mojo Jojo at it again as we throw this Avalanche, and I don't really know what to make of this situation. Like, I need to figure out how to get this thing out of here before it becomes a problem. Now, I try to go for Dragon Claw, but the old mechanic comes at me again, damage registering the turn before the move ends instead of when it technically, I guess, when it's supposed to, even though it doesn't work. And I'll pause once again because this is something that I see come up once in a while, is new mechanic versus old mechanic. New mechanic is basically saying that damage from a fast move registers on the turn that move ends. So, like, right, Incinerate being 5 turns, the damage should register on turn 5. The old mechanic would be if it lands on turn 4. So I get 4 Dragon Breaths off. Under new mechanic, I throw after 4 Dragon Breaths, I get the charge move through. Under old mechanic, I throw 4 Dragon Breaths and I get damage on turn 4 and I don't get the move off. So that's what that means. But opponent has foul plays for days. And I choose not to shield this, hoping that I survive and that they don't shield. Because I need my Venusaur to not die here, and thankfully they let it go. I immediately pivot into my Venusaur here. I'm hoping that they don't have an answer to Venusaur in the back, because if they do, I'm done, dude. So they come with Clodsire here. They're going to throw a charge move. I'm going to no-shield it because I'm just hoping it's a Sludge Bomb. Typically, when I have a shield, they like to throw the Sludge Bomb. Does about half. And then the opponent has Toxapex. And, yeah, that thing is just too bulky. I'm going to get farmed down here. Unfortunately, I just don't have the power and the advantage to be able to get through. All the opponent has to do is shield and farm down here, and they win. So, good game to the opponent. Not much I could do against this line. Again, this is what it felt like for me in Catch Cup. Like, it was really team comp. Really, it was what it was. I lost most of my games by team comps. So getting into the next battle here, we got Skeledirge and Jellicent. You know, both of my back line is okay here. I come in with Arctibax because I have 2 better answers in the back, technically. Opponent's going up on energy, so because they're deciding to stay in and possibly throw a Shadow Ball and dip, I'm going to throw the Dragon Claw here to make the switch timer more misaligned, so I have a better chance of getting Venusaur on this Jellicent at some point later in the fight. And they throw a Surf. And it frustrates me. Because it makes sense. Like, the bait itself makes sense, logically. It just bothers me that they don't full send Shadow Ball, because if I didn't shield that, it would have been such a huge waste of their energy. And just thinking at it objectively, right? I would rather, you know, if I'm going to build up that energy, I would rather just throw it. And at least if I shield, I know that I'm making a decision that I either get a shield or you lose half your Arctibax. That's basically how I would have seen it. But opponent's got 2 brines here. I'm going to let this one go because it is a Toxapex. It won't do too much damage, even though it's super effective. It does about half, which is not great. But they have a shield advantage. They have a Jellicent, but the Jellicent is a little bit low on energy. So the opponent waiting out their switch timer here. Jellicent's going to come in and go for a couple hexes as they just threw the Surf. They're going to be a couple away from a Shadow Ball or a Surf here. So they shield up the Disarming Voice. I come in with my Venusaur. If they bait again, so be it, but I'm shielding what could be a Shadow Ball. And they throw Ice Beam, which is why they threw a... well, I guess you could have thrown the Ice Beam. But anyway, the Ice Beam coverage here, interesting. I'm not sure if they have it. They probably have it for the Dragonite, honestly. I'm going to have to guess. But got Clodsire in here in the back, and I'm going to be able to go for 2 Frenzy Plants. I don't believe that they can KO me with 1 move here. Earthquake would definitely KO me from this range, though. So if they have the Earthquake, bye-bye Venusaur. And the opponent shows that they have Sludge Bomb. That's not going to be enough to KO, so the opponent will have to throw another move here in order to take me out. And if I'm counting correctly, this should be close to all of their energy. So the Sludge Bomb comes through, takes me out. My win condition at this point is to farm down this Clodsire or take them out before they get to a move and then hope that I get to a move before the Jellicent. The Jellicent just threw an Ice Beam, so it should be dry. So I should be able to get to a Disarming Voice here to take out Jellicent, and we are able to get there right before they get to a Surf. It would have been 3 or 4 to the next Surf, so that's going to take out Jellicent and take the game. Well played to the opponent. Getting into this next battle here, we are going to have a great lead into Alolan Sandslash. At least the lead's great. In the back, not so much. The opponent swaps in a Clefable, and they are proving to me now that they are very, very weak overall to Skeledirge, which is what I love about Skeledirge. It core breaks so many teams here in the Great League in general, and the opponent's energy essentially goes nowhere here. They're basically just going to throw Meteor Mash or Moonblast, and it's all resisted. So once they throw the energy, now I can come in with my Venusaur, go for a move on CMP because it would be 6 for them to get to the Meteor Mash. They're not going to throw a resisted Moonblast when they could throw a neutral Meteor Mash. So what I'll do here is I'll no shield because I know it's just a Meteor Mash. Should be able to tank this no problem. And then I'm going to overfarm as much as I can to get to the next move, and then throw when they swap out, because that was a very nice play by the opponent. Now, because the switch timers are misaligned, just like we had in the last game, except now it's on me, opponent gets a nice farm down on their Sandslash, but they're down 0 shields to my 2. Skeledirge is just going to have to get 2 Incinerates through. The opponent won't be able to get to more than 1 charge move, so I'll shield it regardless of what it is, because even if they go Ice Punch, they can't get to another Ice Punch. And if it is another move, it's just an Ice Punch anyway, so... they're getting the farm down here. Skeledirge is primed, locked, and loaded with a ton of energy, and let's see what the opponent wants to come in with. They're waiting out the switch timer, and their Charge-a-Bug in the back. They are completely weak to Skeledirge here in this on their team. So Skeledirge is going to throw the Shadow Ball, and then I'm going to look to go for one more move and get out into my Arctibax to get the snipe, and then my Clefable, or their Clefable, sorry. My Arctibax should be able to farm down. One move will not be enough to KO here. I think the Moonblast would have been enough, to be honest. But I'm either farming down or I'm winning CMP with Skeledirge, so good game to my opponent there. Alright, next battle, we've got Skeledirge into Quagsire, miserable, horrible lead, and I'm going into Arctibax right away. If the opponent has Stone Edge, I mean, I would love to swap out if the game would let me. So my opponent gets a nice, hefty 3 Mudshot head start because of that. Even though I clearly hit the button, the opponent gets to just stay in, or I have to stay in. The opponent gets energy advantage. It's just bad. So I'm going to go for the Hail Mary Avalanche here. Maybe Clodsire shields. Maybe they don't. They shield. I was hoping that because they're so bulky, maybe they wouldn't shield. But I'm going to let this go. If it's a Sludge Bomb, then it won't KO. Opponent going for a Stone Edge, and that almost KOs, but I'm able to hang on by a thread. Arctibax's IVs coming in clutch there. And we land an Avalanche, and this is going to put it in a perfect farm down range for Skeledirge, or even Venusaur, honestly. So I'm going to save my Venusaur in the back here. If the opponent throws a Stone Edge, then so be it. I'm going to save my shield for the Venusaur, hoping that it can sweep. They throw the Stone Edge, not going to do enough damage to KO because it's not stab damage. And then the opponent's going to come back in with their Quagsire. I'm going to bank the energy on my Venusaur, swap, and they have a Skeledirge in the back of their own. Yeah. Nah, I'm not having a good time right now. I am going to be able to do about half of their HP with that Frenzy Plant, but I have to make a decision here, and the opponent's basically going to be able to take me out regardless. My Skeledirge is too low here, so I'm going to have to go for the Frenzy Plant. Now, I go for 1 instead of 2 because of the mechanic we talked about earlier. If the damage hits me on turn 4, then there's no point. So now the opponent's going to immediately go for the Aqua Tail here, and I have to try and make it to another Disarming Voice because they get so much energy from those Mud Shots. And get to the Aqua Tail very quickly. I'm not going to be able to get to a move here. So good game to the opponent here. Getting the Aqua Tail off, taking out my Skeledirge. Unfortunately, that's a good game. All right, next battle here. We're getting Skeledirge into a Lantern. Miserable lead, but at least on this team, I have 2 answers in the back. So I immediately pivot into my Arctibax, and the opponent comes in with a Steelix, and I am just ruining my situation right now. I am just not having a good time. Steelix got very popular after these first couple of sets with me, and yeah, it's not something that I enjoy seeing at all because Arctibax just kind of gets demolished here. Opponent has as much energy as they want for the Skeledirge matchup. It's very good. It's a very good situation for the opponent here. So once again, I just have to hope that my Lantern is able to do some work here. Now my opponent could be full sending the Earthquake, so I'm going to shield because I saw that the Incinerate damage should be enough to KO, and it was, thankfully. So even though I'm down a shield, I have a ton of energy. I can throw the Shadow Ball into the Lantern, which does about half. And then I can get into my Venusaur. Even though I'm down a shield, I can see what's going on here. In the back, opponent's got a Clodsire, so I don't know if this game is winnable yet or not. We're going to have to wait and see, but my hope is that either I can somehow make Venusaur do some work here, or I can get my Skeledirge to, or I can get my Venusaur to get both shields and do some work here, or Skeledirge is able to do something here with the Shadow Ball against the Lantern. We saw how much damage the Shadow Ball did in the last matchup. Sludge Bomb is going to come out. I basically got 1 shield off the opponent at this point. I can let it go. I'm going to have to try and farm down here, right? So a full farm down is necessary. The opponent's Lantern doesn't have a lot of energy, so I'm going to shield up the Clodsire here, and then if I have 100 energy, I know that I can get to the Disarming Voice and a Shadow Ball back-to-back without throwing any energy. So if I get the shield here, I can throw the Shadow Ball. I get the shield, the Shadow Ball gets to go off, and thankfully the bait worked. Getting this Lantern out of here, and the Clodsire is within a farm down range here. That is going to be a good game. Very well played to the opponent. Really all just came down to that shield bait. And I'm not normally one to bait, but when it makes sense, I'll give into it and I'll do it. So we got a Shadow Gligar here on the lead again. I'm going straight into Arctibax in this time. I'm just going to see how this works out for me. Opponent throws immediately pretty much on 6, so I'm pretty sure this is just an Aerial Ace. And then they're going to come in with their Quagsire. I've got a lot of energy here, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to go for the Dragon Claw. Nice chip damage. Avalanche would definitely do more damage. It does about 40%, I think, to a Quagsire. But they decide to shield there, which is fine. And now I'm going to have to shield in kind here because as much as I want to just come in and farm down with my Venusaur, I would like to try and get another shield off the opponent. We see MP tie here, which is huge. The Avalanche goes through and gets a shield, and that I'm just going to let the Arctibax go at this point. Venusaur comes in, farms down, and is going to just completely demolish the Gligar with this Frenzy Plant. Opponent farming up energy. They showed me Aqua Tail. I'm going to hope that maybe they just have Mud Bomb, but I'm going to shield anyway just in case. The Mud Bomb would do quite a bit of damage, and they have a Clodsire in the back, and unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this work because the opponent has the potential to hit me with an Earthquake at this point. I'm basically going to have to just try to make something work, but the opponent's got Gligar swapping in, and Gligar takes the brunt of the Frenzy Plant.
Boom!
And as long as they don't get to an Earthquake before I get to a Shadow Ball here, we're good. Opponent goes for the Earthquake and full sends it, but I know that their next Earthquake is going to be in 7, which means I'm going to not be able to get to the Shadow Ball before they go for the Earthquake. Skeledirge, please, do you live in Earthquake? This is the only hope. Earthquake! Takes out my Skeledirge.
Boom!
Only hope. By one or two fast moves. But able to go 7-3 with this team. So a solid climb up to the 2950s with this team. Before Catch Cup kind of just started to slap me back down, I think I've fallen into the 2700s, just trying to run teams with the 5 things that I have. And I'm going to be honest, it's my inability to climb in Catch Cup is solely because I don't have the roster for it. If I had the meta picks, if I had like Gligar, Lickitung, Medicham, and whatever else I don't want to call them tryhards, but the people who really invested into this cup for this climb. If I had the resources, I have the resources, but if I had the roster capability that they had, I think I'd be able to do a lot better. But I'm just trying to have some fun with some new picks on my roster. I've literally 5 things. I can't climb with 5 things. With those 5 things, they all get mauled by dragons and Quagsire, and it's not a good time. So that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We're gonna catch you in the next one. Bye bye.